Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he joins me now. Well, you're on that committee. What is your understanding of where things stand right now?
Well, I was struck by a couple things in those clips you just played of John Cornyn. The first in which he says he's not asking for very much. That's too true. He isn't asking for that much. He's really asking for written confirmation that the Attorney General will live up to what he testified under oath. It would still allow the Justice Department to pay off cronies of the president. They're already doing that, as you pointed out. They just couldn't do it through this slush fund. And he just wants that tax agreement to apply to Trump, his two kids, and the Trump organization, not a bunch of other companies, subsidiaries, affiliates, et cetera, that were not parties to litigation. He would still get a IRS get-out-of-jail-free card. So, yeah, Cornyn is asking for so little, and the fact that it's still not enough for Donald Trump is just striking. He will go without an attorney general if he must, but he's not going to give up an inch of this self-enrichment scheme of his. But the other thing that struck me about what he said also is, just how extraordinary it is that they can't get the Justice Department, the Attorney General, the administration to live up to what they're promising under oath. I mean, it really does take your breath away when you think about just how modest a requirement or request that is.
Yeah, your point there. Let's talk about the immunity part. There's two parts, right? There's the creation of the slush fund, where the federal government hands over this $1.8 billion, right, for this fund that gets doled out by a bunch of people that they appoint, right, that Trump appoints, right, or Blanche does, I guess, to figure out where it goes. But the part of the immunity, the United States is hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting or pursuing any and all claims against any of the plaintiffs or related or affiliated individuals, including without limitation family or other filing jointly. This is for any infraction across any department, not just the IRS, prior to it being signed on May 19, 2026. Any financial crimes, tax crimes, you name it, right? So your understanding, and I guess this has been a little hard to get, is that Cornyn's just saying, that's fine, but it's got to be just for you and the boys and your daughter? And that's the ask?
That is what he appears to be saying, that, we'll give you, I don't know, $100 million worth of IRS get-out-of-jail-free credits, but we don't want to make it $600 million, which would be potentially what it would if they expanded to, the whole family, anybody they've been affiliated with. I mean, the kids alone have dozens of businesses. We don't know what kind of tax schemes, avoidance, cheating, whatever they may be involved in, but we know the family has a horrible history of tax cheating. So, yes, that's how little Cornyn is asking for. I was also struck when Cornyn said that he doesn't know who's advising the president about this. This is Republican speak for the president is out of his mind, but I don't want to say that. So I'm going to say that there are people around him who are out of their minds who are advising him.
Yes, the bad advice. It's always the viziers who are the problem. There's a theory here. I think there's a few theories. One is that this is sort of, they're personally ticked off of the president. Both, Tillis basically was essentially chased out of that seat. He was going to lose a primary because Trump hates him, was going to endorse his opponent, whoever it was, so he retired. Cornyn was famously screwed over by Trump, who endorsed Ken Paxton. They call them the Wounded Bear Caucus. Both Tillis and Cornyn are part of what some lawmakers have dubbed the Wounded Bear Caucus of GOP senators leaving office after this year who have little to lose politically from confrontation with the White House. The other theory is that they're sort of a heat shield for a bunch of senators in cycle. Dan Sullivan in Alaska, John Husted in Ohio, Susan Collins in Maine, who understand that this looks like a heist, this looks terrible, and don't want it to happen after they said it was dead, and then he gets confirmed, and they all vote for Tom Blanche to get confirmed, and then, lo and behold, oh, look, the fund is back.
It could very well be part of this. I remember during one of the debates we had on the slush fund on the Senate floor, I asked the Republicans on the Senate floor, and they were almost all there, who among you thinks this is a good idea? Does anyone want to speak out in defense of this thing? You don't often ask a question like that and have no takers. There were no takers. I waited and let the question hang out there. Nobody wanted to say they thought this was a good idea. It's a terrible idea. So I think Tillis expressed that, yeah, there are a bunch of other people who also think this is a terrible idea, some of whom are on the ballot in tough races. That may be part of it. I think it's less vindictiveness on the part of these two senators. I think it's more freedom, frankly. They don't have to face the electorate again. They don't have to worry about another tough primary. They feel liberated to not only speak their mind, but liberated to do the right thing when they have so often felt it necessary to carry some really dirty White House water. So I think it is being liberated. It also may be a little bit of cover for other Republicans that can't take that position, that wish they could. But at the end of the day, what it all comes back to on the other side of this is a president who really doesn't give a rat's ass about the Justice Department, the American people, fighting crime, or anything the AG is supposed to do. It is always about Donald Trump and what's best for him.
Yeah, and that's been coming through in the polling this week. You've got approval ratings in AP NRC at 33%, disapproved 66%, all-time low in the Q poll at 32%. A career low in the CNN poll, 34%. And one thing you see is the priorities are not, his priorities are not our priorities. And that sure looks like what the priorities are here, because I think he's going to kill his own AG nominee or kill the nomination over him getting his slush fund.
I think that's right. I think those poll numbers reflect the fact that corruption is a powerful issue when it is in combination with the fact that the president isn't focused on the problems of the American people. And why isn't he focused on it? Because his only care is making money for himself. The combination of greed, incompetence, broken promises, that's not a prescription for high poll numbers. And I think we're seeing that reflected.
Senator Adam Schiff of California serves in the Senate Judiciary Committee. There will be some interesting developments this week. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.